I'm late to this. What's up, everybody? How is everybody doing today? This is Fantasy Theory. I want to talk about the new show based off the video games Fallout. What a show. I mean, I'm late. Like I said, I'm about like a month and a half late now. I finally got down to watching it. I started it about a week ago. I watched the first episode. I didn't watch it again. I was intrigued just by the first scene, but then I was like, I have to finish it because everyone's talking about it. It was great. I want to go through kind of my thoughts about it. I want to talk about the story. This is going to be a spoiler one, so if you don't want to be spoiled by it, I suggest clicking off and then coming back and, listening to it. But before we start, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Let's get into the Fallout show because this show is exactly how you adapt a video game into a TV show or movie. So I have a few notes here that I want to talk about because I didn't want to forget them when I was doing this. Let's talk about the first episode to the last episode, the story. So basically the story, it takes off with the ghoul's perspective, the ghoul before he was the ghoul, which I actually don't even know his name. I don't remember his name. They might have said it, but I just wasn't paying attention. But the ghoul, you see him in human form before they drop the nukes 200 years before that, with his perspective of him, being with his daughter as a cowboy doing a birthday party until the nukes eventually go off. And then we fast forward 200 years later where we see Lucy in the vault. Lucy is with her dad and her brother in the vault. The vaults are the big story for this, everything like that. And then you also see Maximus, who's part of the Brotherhood, or the people above the land who are not in vaults. They're part of the Brotherhood. Pretty much the story. Lucy's dad gets taken by scavengers or village, something like that, whatever they're called. Raiders or something, and Lucy has to go find her dad. She leaves the vault, they break her out of the vault, and she goes to the real world. She's very naive. She has a little background to her in terms of martial arts and stuff, but she's a little naive. She's not naive, but she's innocent in a way. She comes from the vault, so she doesn't really know crazy things like the outer world, a post-apocalyptic world. We meet the ghoul who has been, I guess, resurrected after this. I don't really know when that actual scene and the ending of the first episode takes place. However, pretty much just to break it down after that, they need to get a scientist's head. Scientist's head has something in his neck that I don't really know what it was for. It was something for the ending episode. Forgive me. I just want to put out a little background on myself. I've never played Fallout. I think I have one of the Fallout games. Never touched it. I don't know anything about it. All I knew was from the trailers. I didn't even know anything. I knew it was a post-apocalyptic type of thing. I had no idea about the vaults, but from the vaults I saw from the trailers, which I honestly don't even remember the trailers that well. Pretty much they have to bring this head to some buyers and everyone has their own thing. The ghoul has a bounty on the head. Lucy needs the head to get to her dad, and Maximus needs it for the Brotherhood. Maximus betrays the Brotherhood and meets up with Lucy. For that, Lucy is taken prisoner by the ghoul. By the end of the show, we also see Rico. I don't remember his name. I call him Rico because he's from Hannah, Montana. Lucy's younger brother. And the vault scene that the vault isn't as innocent as it seems. There's 3 vaults and 2 of the vaults have people in it. And the third one is this crazy thing that I don't even know what it was, to be honest with you. It was preserving humans for years. And that's kind of how her father lived for so long. Pretty much by the end of the episode, I want to talk about there was a great low-key and slow build. There was little things like the ghoul not wanting the thumbs up thing. It turns out that in the end, when I didn't realize this until I watched it a second time, but in the first episode, he didn't want to do the thumbs up thing, and it makes so much sense because he didn't want to be he was the poster boy for the vaults, and his pose was the cartoon character. It's such a great way to put the ghoul into this and give him so much more background. But just little things like that throughout the show. The character that takes Lucy's dad, you don't see until the end, and then you realize, the last episode that she was actually who was considered, I think, the communist at the time. She was the communist person that met with the ghoul before that. There's so many little things that I don't want to go too into detail. I kind of gave you the plot of it, but I don't want to go too into detail in case somebody wants to watch it. But I want to go into detail because it's so great to talk about it. Great ending. Like I said, the show had a slow build that paid off in the end with I don't even want to get too into it, but all the reveals that. And here's the big spoiler now. If you want to click off, if you got this far, I would really click off at this point if you don't want to be spoiled. The ghoul's wife proposed bombing the world themselves to push the Vault initiative, which the ghoul was able to, as when he was a human, when he was able to spy on her. Lucy's dad, which I didn't mention before, the premise is that Lucy's doesn't really know her mom. His dad banished her, and like at the end, there's a skeleton, that like zombie skeleton thing that actually is her mom. It's wild, man. I can't even explain it that well. You just got to watch the show yourself. I'm just reviewing it, man. The show, it's just, wow. Great ending. There's going to be a season 2, definitely. So if you're looking for a one-off series, you're probably not going to get that. It's a season 2, pretty much confirmed with how the ending goes. My favorite character, you probably know it, because it probably is yours too, the Ghoul. Ghoul's best character in the show. Without the Ghoul, I don't think the show is that good. Honestly, the Ghoul really adds the element, this badass element to the show. I mean, Lucy's badass. Maximus he's cool. He's not badass, but he's cool. The Ghoul adds a whole nother level to the show. Seeing his background and like leading up to the events and what he became and what his mission is right now. The Ghoul's the favorite part. Lucy's cool. She starts off this naive character. By like the ending of the show, she's kind of like a badass in a way. You know, putting the bullet into her mother's head after finding out her dad is so evil and like almost sparing her mother instead of like leaving her alive. Granted, it was like a skeleton zombie thing, and Maximus, he did do some character development. I liked him in the beginning of the show, but I could see people saying he's a little annoying at certain times. I liked him by the end of the show. And Rico, I like them showing Rico. Let me look up his name because I don't want to keep calling him Rico in the show. Norm. Name is Norm. Okay, I'll try to remember that. Norm going in the vault and showing what's going on in the vault in the aftermath of the first episode. I mean, the first episode really makes you want to watch what happens next because it literally starts off the first episode. Again, spoiler alert if you don't want to be spoiled. It starts off with a nuke. So it really gets you into the movie, into the show. The story was unique. You know, I don't really know many stories where you have to transport a head. So a scientist's literal head. You know, it starts off with the scientist being able to walk and everything. The Ghoul shoots his leg, and then he eventually takes some suicide thing to kill himself. And he says, all you need is my head to complete the mission. So she chops off the dude's head. Unique story. I like this showing like how post-apocalyptic it is with certain like bugs being gigantic, with like people eating people, like those type of weird shit, like, and just seeing like how civilization above ground, above the vaults, you know, we have people with ears on the top of their heads, you know, people with one eye in the middle, and like how other vaults are. I also like how they faded a black screen to switch it between character stories. I noticed this mostly in the beginning, but I also like how they went back in time to show everything instead of revealing everything in the beginning of the episode, in the beginning of the show. They kind of went throughout the show to see what the Ghoul was doing at the time before, and then you kind of, at the end, you realize the Ghoul and Lucy's dad have some history together. Lucy's dad being a fan because the Ghoul. Oh man, it was great, man. If you're not a fan of Fallout like me, I'm not a huge fan of Fallout. Like I said, I've never played the games before. If you're not a fan, you're still gonna be drawn in by these characters because there's characters and the story is great. You're gonna want to watch it and keep going. Sure, there are some slow moments of the show, which is expected most of the time, but not too many slow moments where it takes you out of the story, which is great to me. So that was pretty much the story. How I would rate this show? I would give it, because once you say it, you kind of got to deal with it. I would give it like an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 show. It was great. It was really good. You know, I say you got to deal with it. You got to say it. You just got to stick with what your initial reaction is. I was thinking 7 out of 10, but I think that's too low. 8 out of 10 is, I think, fair. Maybe could push the 9 out of 10, but it was great. You know, especially if you're into like post-apocalyptic stuff, it really shows some great things. And the show is gory. You know, people's limbs getting chopped off, people's blood everywhere. There's a little bit of magic in it with certain moments. It's great. It shows like how insane it could make somebody in the post-apocalyptic world, and you need to watch it for yourself. I highly suggest watching it. You know, it's a great adaptation to the games, and it honestly got me wanting to play the games because I'm so interested in the story now and more lore. And if you played the games, I'm sure there's a lot of moments in the show where you'll see the lore of it and be like, oh yeah, that's from the games, or oh yeah, that makes sense, or certain things like, you know, it welcomes people from the game. It welcomes newcomers. It welcomes people who are a little familiar with it. It's a great show. I can't wait for season 2. But that's about everything I got for the review. Let me know if you've seen Fallout. I know I'm a little late. I'm about a month late. But you know what? Better late than never, right? Leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you saw Fallout, what you think of it. And I'll see you on the next one. Have an incredible day.